you're a fan of potential crazy strategies, every hero that could possibly be played in Heroes of the Storm, well, you've tuned into the right time because we've got Simplicity going up against Octalysis next. I am Jay Hal. Again, with me here is Dreadnought. Dreadnought, after last weekend, Octalysis, they changed their own meta. Simplicity, we heard from them on Sunday night. Whether it holds true or not, they said they might just answer with a crazy meta of their own.
Yeah, and that is where I'm going to leave that up to Simplicity. Maybe they'll bust it out, maybe they won't. But I think it's very important to bring it back to Octalysis, right? We had that performance from them last weekend, able to break out the Zool and the Medivh together, that they're still down that same kind of thought process right now. You and I have both talked to them throughout the week. They're almost branding themselves as the new meta. I mean, there's a lot of hype kind of going behind it here. So again, a lot of this I go, this is the time to prove it. We're going against Simplicity. They are a struggling roster here. If this is truly that level of innovation, this should be diverse drafts, but also dominance displayed on their half.
Let's take a look at the standings as we can see where these teams sit. After last weekend, Dreadnought, Simplicity starting to climb out of that hole that they were in towards the Crucible range, and that was both wins against LFM and No Tomorrow. For Octalysis, it's almost an impossible climb to that #1 spot, but they are still looking for that climb in terms of the playoff spot. So for them, they're playing for that. But as you said, it gives them a chance to, one, if they're defining their meta, it's time to refine what they're trying to define. If you see what I'm saying on fine, yeah, you got it.
No, I got it. I got it. It's along the lines of like, you know, even to revert it back to times like when I played. There are many times where it'd be like, okay, you're starting a tournament and it ends in one day, right? It's not the standard HGC format. What you would do is you open the bracket with your, I think this is going to be the future meta, things that you've been testing, but you haven't totally gotten to expand it everywhere out. And you just says, well, if we struggle at all or we lose a game, then maybe do we want to go with things we're more comfortable. This is a perfect example of seeing the gap between Octalysis to Simplicity. You should look at that and be like, I think this should display a lot of dominance. And then also, you know, if they are going to bust out unique strategies, Simplicity does have a majority of the people, or not a majority, but at least some of the members that have brought us even immortal compositions way back in the past. So hopefully it gets wild.
Everybody remembers that famed Murky game. I had the pleasure of sitting down with King Caffeine and Draded to talk about how this series could potentially play out, but let's hear from them themselves.
Team's morale is definitely very high after this past weekend. We knew it was the most important weekend for us, and it also happened to be the first weekend of the split, so we took it really seriously. Everyone put their nose to the grind and put in their best effort, and we came away with a 2-0. So overall, I think everyone's feeling really happy about that. I've got to say, Draded has been standing out to me as a very high-performing player this split. He's always been one of my favorite players in the up-and-coming player list, and I really think he's come into his own, and I even think he's still improving. After seeing Octalysis' extremely spicy comps last weekend, we know that we're going to have to change up a little bit because they know how to play with it against standard. So we're going to have to find, you know, the crux of those compositions and deny it from them, or find something like Hosty said that's equally as spicy.
My role on the team right now feels very natural. I think everybody on the team now like knows my play style and how I like to play, and we've kind of worked around that, and I think we found a nice team composition that we're adjusted to now, and I think that makes my job a lot easier. All I'm going to say to Hosty is that if he thinks that he can out crazy us, he's got another thing coming.
Well, Dread, I love me some crazy strategies. You hear about them all the time. But now I get to see the embodiment of them come out. And it's like, even I was surprised last week on what we saw there, the main tank Zool, but it really kind of revolved around what Draded has brought to the table since the Western Clash and Post. We saw him start to really take over the Maiev Medivh role, start to implement those. So for them, the crazy is probably going to be there, but a lot of it has been the contributions of Draded.
And I also want to highlight, it's been the contributions of the heroes that he's playing on as well. I think when it comes to what this enables, last week when we saw this level of play from Octalysis with the innovation, it didn't come flawlessly, right? There were definitely some highs, definitely some lows, and a lot of it hinged on at least the high department of that Medivh. That is a huge enabler to unique strategies. I said it last week. I have said it in the past. He cheats on how he approaches Heroes of the Storm. He enables specific compositions that aren't possible without him, and I can't help but feel like that was kind of part of it. And it felt like once Medivh was taken off the table, how successful really was Octalysis. And when they're going with this new meta is the meta, this kind of, you know, anti-meta approach, if you will, that they have, if that is all depending on the Medivh, I think it's going to be a big concern. So I'm looking in this series, will Simplicity remove the Medivh? And if so, does it still look like it's got that, Omega kind of cheese that they've been boasting about?
Well, all maps are Medivh maps. Let's figure out what Battleground #1 is going to be and what map we will go to. Will be Tomb of the Spider Queen, picked up here by Simplicity. As Simplicity banning out Braxis, the norm for them. But Sky Temple, Octalysis, it's been their new favorite map to ban along with Tempo Storm. It seems to be a lot of those teams shine away from that. But Tomb of the Spider Queen definitely has a meta of its own when we look at Wave Clear Dreadnought, something very important in Heroes. Maybe not as much on other battlegrounds, but for Tomb, controlling rotations, definitely get an advantage off that.
Zul Medivh looks pretty good on a battleground like Tomb. Zul's got a lot of that Wave Clear. Medivh to be able to help the 4-man within those rotations, making it very difficult to understand where you can and cannot go. Beyond that, though, I do look at this and I go, it's a bit curious to see that kind of confidence onto Tomb for a team like Simplicity. It doesn't feel like it screams to their strength. So with that in mind, I can't help but feel like that level of it's going to get a little bit wild. Maybe something like a Nazebo is something that I can see them, dabbling into here with this draft.
At this point, everybody else has been playing it. Is that wild enough for them?
I see Simplicity going, we're going to deviate from the meta. Octalysis goes, we break the meta, right? I very much that they are the ones kind of going, we're going to do our own thing, whereas I see Simplicity going, hey, Nazebo's pretty good here. Maybe we'll be willing to pick it up rather than full breaking out of the meta. But as the drafts come through and the bans come through, more importantly, the question is, does Medivh make its way past the ban phase?
The thing to consider also is that Medivh is very prominent, not just for Octalysis, but also Simplicity. We've talked a lot about Medivh being played by Hosty. One of the best that we have. We'll see if that is a point of contention and how prioritized that is. You have to imagine that if it does get let through, Dread, that will be first pick potential no matter what for Octalysis.
I view it as, if their philosophy and so much hinges on the Medivh, I don't see any reason to not, because he is so universal and diverse in the things that work with him. When looking at the cheese, it's like the Medivh comes first and the problem with the Medivh and the Zul. And so very much feel like that has got to be a go-to here for Simplicity, and it will be so. Banning out the Medivh here, no hammer available. Now question is, Octalysis, what do you got? And does it get that wild?
Well, Maiev, we know the amount of control that Maiev brings. Dreaded's hero, we mentioned how strong he's been on the Medivh Maiev. It seems that could be a natural fit for them, especially when we saw the Diablo ban. For Simplicity, we've seen the step up and play from Murden from King Caffeine, but the last time we saw him, Dread, on that Garrosh, a time where he had struggled in the past, definitely he dominated the later part of the series that they won last weekend. So for Simplicity, it seems like they could play around that, but instead they do keep it tried and true with that Yrel Murd.
I do like as well with Zuna having the opportunity in the offlane on something more like the Yrel. It seems to kind of fit his play style, especially when looking at part 1 a lot better than compared to some of the other offlanes that we see him going to. So comfort there, but no commitment to any part of the backline. Honestly, for either side here, pretty interesting looking at the opening half of this draft. Second half through the bans, though, with the offlane priority picked up for both sides. Murden is picked up for Simplicity. I'd expect the Warrior Choke to come in here. Question is, do you want Garrosh or Diablo? Garrosh seems to be the vote.
But is Simplicity or Octalysis saying, well, that's fine. We're probably not going to pick a Warrior. Anyways, they have Blaze Maiev, and it is something that if they do opt to continue to go into different areas, as we see the white main ban, is that Justin had been playing some, we saw the Thrall, we saw the Zul. They did revert back to one game where it was far more current meta, so they do have the flexibility to potentially go into that. And we have seen in the early stages of Blaze, teams did pick Blaze as a main tank during his initial release.
It's been a lot of hype. And that is a good point that you bring up. It could, in fact, be maybe that deviation there with the Blaze, as you said. Raynor and Karazim. Tiger JK not mixing anything up here. Sticking to the Karazim play. I'm curious, is it the 7 versus the Palm? It was looking good with the Palm for him last time, but whether or not, some of the adjustments towards other teams in other parts of the world has come to the likes of his level of play.
Well, Octalysis, do we get a main Warrior? What's your range going to be? It's got to be something. Gul'dan seems like their style. There's going to be Diva, adjusting special.
There's no way. Double off
and a Phoenix. Okay, Bunny Hop plus Salvo. Remember, you get bonus damage on Salvo on slow targets. Bunny Hop does allow you to slow targets by bouncing on top of them over and over, but we get Diva. It is something that we have seen. It was more of the Cursed Hollow days that we saw that Octalysis would run this weird split push on that with the Diva. Instead, we're getting it right out of the gate.
Deviation here from the meta from Octalysis, but not too wild. Last pick, Nazebo, coming out from Simplicity.
You called it. We can see
I
him.
mean,
It's Tomb.
It was just like I was throwing out like, what's a hero that is like once in a while in Tomb? You know, not a far stretch. I'm not surprised, but I'm also not majorly convinced when looking at the double front line. Deckard might have some difficulties as the game moves on, but this is Simplicity versus, you know, Octalysis. I look at this and I go, Simplicity, you relying on the late game might be difficult with the composition, or more importantly, just when looking at the maybe skill disparity here between these two squads. So will Nazebo be able to make it to those later stages?
The one thing that is easier for Nazebo, especially if you go spider build, D.Va's mech movement is slow. So it's really easy to land skill shots on that. So stacking up that probably early will be there. You know, Dreadnought, the one thing that I love about all of a sudden this part 2, it can get a little wild with Octalysis, but the fact that we get to see it on this side and we get to see how it unfolds and what new meta they might have, it's far easier being on this side than the side for Simplicity, because everybody that Octalysis faces, it's a different problem, a different equation that they have to solve.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of why some of the meta forms like in the way that it does is having a consistent example to learn from is half the reason you can learn and improve that much better. And I think that's what you're highlighting is it's difficult to understand how to even begin a lot of these approaches here for Octalysis, but Simplicity is approaching it here, and it's with the Nazebo. Hosty, in fact, was coming in here onto that Nazebo. We got King Caffeine on his Murden, Tiger JK going to play the Karazim, Zuna on Urel, and I missed K1 Pro on Raynor.
You know, maybe we even get Combustion this game.
I was going to bring that up.
Octalysis might come in here, but it will be Justin. He will, of course, be on that D.Va. Goku on the Blaze, Draded on the Maiev, Prismat on the Phoenix, Buds in his familiar role of Deckard. We know that's not changing.
The only constant feels like they're of Octalysis for now. Spider is the level talent, or level 1 talent here for Nazebo. Standard so far from what we have seen from the majority others. No other major talent deviation when looking pretty much across the board. No indestructible, or excuse me, not indestructible, but unstoppable opportunities for Blaze at the level 1. And not too much hard crowd control to need to be able to get out of.
Fast clear coming in here for Octalysis. Prismat going to disrupt the mount there of King Caffeine. As you know, we saw earlier on Dragon Shine, we saw Zugrug take a very aggressive approach, stopping the rotations of the enemy team. That's something that, you know, back in the day when it was Murd and ETC, both those, you would see them sit. So that pathing area where we see Justin going up, you would see something like a Murd and an ETC just kind of disrupt those rotations. But we see that King Caffeine didn't find the rest of the team of Octalysis because they went back to start their night camps.
It's going to be mirrored now by Simplicity. Couple seconds behind. Normally, you say any mercenary camp where you're behind your opponent's probably not going to be the best, but this is one of the few battlegrounds in situations where if you are responsive, it might be able to pay off. Octalysis has got a very fast clear through mid, so much so that they should be able to get a little bit of free damage onto this front wall, where normally I was going to compliment the stall out on that camp actually is paying off for Simplicity here. It costs them based on Octalysis's great punishment here through mid, getting the clear on the mid wave and a lot of free damage onto the front wall. That is going to be something that when we look at the next Web Weaver phase, or the first one for Octalysis, I can't help but feel like we're going to remember this push and be like, shout out to those night camps that really set this up to be the momentum turner.
Goku trying to find the follow-up there. There's going to be the stun. Tiger JK trying to trade out onto Goku, unable to get the final shot there. Tiger JK will walk away. Look, man, if we're going down to Crazy Town, the nuclear option for D.Va plus the combustion, oh my goodness. Nobody should ever pick that unless you're clearing waves on Braxis, but you know, when I see Octalysis, the mind wanders a little.
All right, call me crazy here, but combustion, it's been so long since I've even played it that at this point I'm struggling to remember the fine details. It does do damage during its initial cast time and channel opportunity.
Talking about stay a while and listen?
Yeah, I was like, stay a while and listen into combustion would be huge, but then you break the stay a while whenever you start the combustion, so it's not as likely to get that high impact. So much so that, you know, if anything, maybe stay a while into D.Va Mecha Explosion would be more likely.
Well, we see the fusion generator, so every time D.Va absorbs damage in that mech, it helps ramp up the explosion. And the spiders, for what it's worth, Dren, I mean, if they land on you, they do attack frequently. So it's one of those things, the fast auto attack speed from a Karazim perhaps, Either way, Justin definitely, I mean, it's the meta pick, it's the normal pick. But something to consider.
Stormbolt stacks still continuing there for Caffeine. But the control over the lanes for now seem to be going pretty well for Octalysis. No major momentum swing in one direction or another. Simplicity with the 39 they've been able to turn in. A lot of pressure there on the Hosty. Not going to be able to zombie wall or go through the normal escape. And with that, first blood here over to Octalysis. That was by far the most impressive D.Va gank I have ever seen. That was beautiful. Just cut off the escape route from below. Put him in a lose-lose scenario and say goodnight. Post 13, probably not going to be as pretty, at least not when killing Nazebo. Tiger, though, not going to have a dash out until the very end of that tether. Very clutch timing, by the way, for Tiger right there.
You know, you brought up a point last weekend. I think it's very important to note. Like a Medivh changes the timing of rotations, changes the pacing of what you're used to. D.Va just did that as well, and it is something that, you know, fool me once, you know, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, can't get fooled again. So it is something to note of.
Something to be able to avoid there. Justin throws his thrusters down as we got first Webweaver phase available for Simplicity. Tether not available there from Draded, as you see him kind of attempting the skirmish here over mid in his best interest, considering the wave clear maybe not the best from Octalysis, especially without the D.Va mech to maybe get a distraction. Justin doing a good job demanding any kind of resources from Simplicity. Any moment Simplicity is not sieging, Octalysis should look at that as a pretty big win. But Zuna's continuing to siege down below. Middle getting a little bit of value as well.
And Zuna on the Yrel Dread, it seems like it fits his playstyle. It gives him obviously a very tanky hero to survive on, but it allows him to be a playmaker as well, which is something we know Zuna loves to do. So I think the aggression that he gets out of a hero like Yrel definitely is something that fits the style of Simplicity. So we see Justin almost with another mech explosion. Octalysis just 8 gems away from getting a turn-in of their own. The defense was pretty decent on the side of Octalysis for that first one as they look to get the second night camp of the game pushing out here in the mid lane.
Normally I would look at that first Webweaver phase from Simplicity and you would say, you know, they didn't get a lot done, but it was also early, understandable. But I guess I raise a little bit of concern due to the lack of clear that exists other than the mainly between the Phoenix and the Blaze for Octalysis. And then also the sieging opportunities by Simplicity between the Raynor, the Kharazim, and the Nazebo. All are pretty good at getting the siege. Granted, Nazebo hasn't hit his later stages problems like he normally can be. But what I'm saying is it does feel like there might have been not as much gained out of that first Webweaver as Simplicity would normally like. And with that in mind, I think if Octalysis turns in this next gym, which is probably dependable that they do so, round the 10 spike as well, that momentum swing is going to be a lot more devastating, especially when things like this keeps happening, than you would normally project at this point in time.
Well, that route there, Buds making plays again, making sure to follow up the zoning that they've had. 2 early kills. Level 10 will now be here. Zuna, I don't think you want to try and contest this one because 10's so close. It's time to concede, fall back, make sure not to give up any bit more. Team Octalysis getting control. Simplicity making a very good call, though, here, Dread Knight. Getting the Knights to make sure and help in this defense, which will definitely be very aggressive by Octalysis. It is time.
It's really funny. As this Webweaver phase spawns, we can say thanks to both Knights. The first Knight setup for this middle lane, when why it is an easy kind of opportunity for Octalysis, but then also to Simplicity to build at least a smaller defense over what the Knight camp Octalysis was able to make happen earlier, or make happen with earlier in this game. Tether not used yet there by Draded. Webweavers have descended. It's going to be a 3-2 split for now. Phoenix now joining the rest of the ranks here of Octalysis in the top half. Breaking the base of Simplicity. No Blaze rotation yet. Expect offense from Justin and friends here as long as this Webweaver has any health to kind of write home about. And for now, bottom just now being cleared up. It's pretty easy to get this pressure out here for Octalysis.
Tiger JK dashing out of there. Bud's trying to see if he can follow up. Draded as well. They are pushing forward, trying to see if they can get it. The fort should fall here momentarily. Ravenous Spirit was picked up, but against the D.Va with that thruster does create a knockback, and Ravenous Spirit can be interrupted. So the battle between when to use Ravenous Spirit versus Justin on that thruster is going to be a very important matchup to watch.
It is actually a really good point that you bring up, because also normally you would put it in a situation where I can go, well, I don't care if she can knock me back. If she's in a point of, you know, kind of threat with her HP to where she needs to fully retreat, it doesn't really matter, J-Hal. But D.Va can outspeed the Ravenous Spirit too. She's never going to die to it. So most of the time she uses her thrusters in a defensive situation, it's equally as profitable to just boop the Nazeebo, get the interrupt, and call it a night there. Tiger JK dropping a small boop onto Goku here with that interrupt. 47 gems in his hands. Was Palm, by the way, there. Tiger JK Classic for Simplicity.
Justin sitting on another explosion. No bunny hop, of course, with the big shot. Very good at getting that mech back, which is where you do a lot of your work. Tiger JK does have that. There's going to be the follow-up. There's the slow, the tether back in, unable to get it into that route. So for now, King Caffeine and Team Holding is traded and Team unable to get the lockdown on the side of Octalysis.
Stormbolt ends up landing here. Channel attempt out from Justin is Draded. Huge flank opportunity from above. He's going to get the follow-up. Hosti's completely isolated. Goku starts the channel. That's 47 gems. Interrupt there by Calf. Mecha Explosion coming through, splitting out Hosty. Simplicity get the Web Weavers here for themselves, holding off the siege and split pressure there of Octalysis. But the 13 is far closer here for Octalysis, and that might be a problem while looking at this sieging moment.
The silver lining for Simplicity is that mech explosion was used right before that. Sometimes we've seen that, especially if things do get troublesome. You can use that in defense of the Web Weavers, but as you said, 13 talents tier is far more threatening in all regards, more so than just a mech explosion, but definitely a tool or resource not available on Octalysis, at least not for a moment longer, is Tiger JK and Hosty pushing down mid-fort. If they get this down, they'll have 13 off of one of these structures that fall.
Continuing the siege up here. Buds with the split defense there, actually popping the Blessing just to help him and Justin get faster clear, but now he's in a bad spot there. Justin ends up getting the mech two-man jet propulsion, or excuse me, Stormbolt. Stay a while and listen comes out too little too late after the damage is there, and the kill comes through. First to drop is in fact Buds. Justin having to thrust out of there. Look at that, my goodness, with that heroic use out of the Maiev there, able to stop the escape from Simplicity. Tiger, he's gonna be first to go down. Salvo gonna come out.
Oh, Goku has almost no health the minute he comes out of here. He's going to pop there. He is holding on to a lot of gems, Dread. I don't know if they can get back in there, but King Caffeine, he's starting to get low. Draded with the two-man tether. Does he get the reset? He does get the reset on the fan. Gets 2 kills there, and now we see Justin and team, they're going in. That's going to be a 3rd kill. Team Octalysis is turning this around and holding their ground despite the initial favor towards Simplicity. Oh, that interrupted Dwarf Toss. This is going to be another.
Perfect body block as well immediately after. And that is a kill there. Clean play coming out from Justin there onto the D.Va pickup from Octalysis. And now this is their moment there. A lot of gems were denied after the kill onto Goku, but there is still enough for a Web Weaver phase now for Team Octalysis here. They're going to descend, and this is where this is the opportunity for, I feel like, Simplicity to try and rely on that double backliner, and they are better siege than that of Octalysis. But if Octalysis get another clever play out of Justin there with the Mecha Explosion, the D.Va Explosion, I can't help but feel like it's going to be a lot happening here with this Web Weaver phase.
Zuna gets dismounted there. Justin going in. Stay a while and listen. Locks down 3 members. Can they get the follow-up? They do get the root behind that, but Zuna comes in with a big old hammer, knocks people around, just manages to get on the other side of that wall, but he cannot get behind another as the jump goes in. There's a good stun by King Caffeine, but a follow-up route and stun there. King Caffeine trying to get away, and Tiger JK needs a dash target.
That was actually a huge vision control, though, coming out from Tiger and able to dash over the wall, because if they hadn't gotten vision of Draded, that would have happened to 3 as you see them pull the tether back with the full combo. Palm comes out from Tiger JK to be able to keep Simplicity alive. Ravenous Spirit now dropped by Hosty, but not enough damage to be able to stop all of Octalysis' siege here. Hosty now getting stunned out by the root jet propulsion, getting the follow-up tether coming out from Draded. Ice block there along with the Warden's Cage thrown down. Simplicity down 16 talent here, but they are holding off this defense for now. First to drop is Hosty. King Caffeine quick to follow, and now Octalysis focus the keep.
This is really picking up the pace here for Octalysis. They're tracking down Zuna, but Zuna does have a self-heal. This keep will fall for Octalysis. They're sitting on 40-ish gems as they start to make their way out of here. So not exactly enough to get another turn in, but they do have that control, that 16-tier advantage. They're going to get that camp. That will force a response mid, but without a keep there, it doesn't necessarily net the same type of response that it would, so you can push another lane.
And Jay, I just want to bring it back to that initiation, because there was 2 major plays that I feel like stood out constantly throughout the series so far. If you notice how insanely proactive Buds is being with a lot of his setup for the team here, I feel like he has kind of taken it upon himself throughout this game, willing to drop the scroll ceiling and is willing to even pre-stay a while and listen to make sure he hits a two-man and that confident that he can force a fight and get an advantage here for his team. It's just that level of proactiveness has been very, very impressive from Team Octalysis. But then the rest of that gank, let's be real here, that was clean. And it's not like Simplicity didn't have an amazing response either. Tiger with the dash palm to make sure he gets the immediate kill. I mean, that was just, it was like for the pacing of this game and how slow it's been, just 20 seconds of just greatness there. Very, very high octane. Not high Octalysis.
For Octalysis, they don't have a significantly larger gem count. They have turned some in. So with losses on both sides, it's kind of a silver lining for Simplicity that they have at least established to hold on in that realm. They have lost the keep. That's a big detriment. They find themselves 2 levels down. They can get a turn in, great. For Hosty, sitting on 144 stacks, if he gets to 20, he'll have it. But for Octalysis, oh, that cleanse, but directly in. Tiger JK just manages to dash out. Oh my goodness.
It's the value of the level 7 mixed with just the micro control there of Tiger JK on one of his comfortable Karazims. Using that healing coming out from his W, the Echo of Heaven opportunities to make sure that it gets the mobility there and everybody able to dodge the scroll of ceiling. Double Stormbolt from Caffeine. No trigger pulled yet. Zuna actually splits them. Stay a while and listen, locks down 2.
Oh, the double dash.
Look at that diva.
Here we go. Here comes the mech explosion. Unable to hit anybody, but King Caffeine says, I can't go anywhere. Can anybody get to me? Instead, he's going to be the first to fall. Here comes the salvo. Ardent Defender has been used. Tiger JK continuing to dash to basically everybody to keep them alive. And Octalysis going in again as that's going to be the pull in onto Zuna. 2 members down there looking for more.
Drayden tried to find another tether, but the scroll of ceiling is going to be enough there to lock down K1 Pro. And that is enough for the defense matrix and the kill here. 3 for nothing. Octalysis dominates that skirmish, 12-3 in total of kills, and now an opportunity for a Web Weaver phase, maybe even a boss if they would like.
Yeah, just enough gems. They'll have a few extra in reserve once they clear this wave, but with 3 members down, Dreadnought, this could be the final push. 20 talent here will be here at the end of this or somewhere in the middle of this push. So now they have Web Weavers, they have 20 talent here, they're gonna have a boss here. They need to hurry up and clear this so that it's timed little better, and that's actually very good timing, so that should meet up here in just a moment. But we actually see the Hearth back. They are going for the victory push here, Dread. Octalysis, 12 kills to 3 behind a Diva as the main tank.
And they were able to kill those last 2 minions to make sure that this Web Weaver should make its way all the way down to the minion wave before it sends max value out of this top lane too. And as you said, this feels like it is now on Simplicity's shoulders to try and find a way to recover this game. Otherwise, this may be the siege that takes game number 1 here for Octalysis. Tether not going to be executed there. I thought for a moment with that brilliant E out from Drayden, it might be enough to set them up there. Goku zoning off K1 Pro.
There's the interrupt.
Keep down.
Posty had Ravenous Spirit up, Justine said nigh, and now here comes the boss. This could be the push here. King Caffeine and team trying to hold, but Prismat and everybody coming in here. Stay a while is interrupted. Dreadnought, it seems like pressure is mounting on this core.
Yeah, especially with that Diva explosion. Drayden trying to get the Warden's Cage. Hosey ended up using the Ice Block, but at this point, kills, it does not matter here. It is not necessary. Octalysis has enough siege available and takes game 1 on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Map selection there of Simplicity. So definitely setting the tone right here in game 1.
My only question for Octalysis is what's next? I mean, we always have to put it into context that this is not exactly facing Tempo Storm in this game. Simplicity did look strong last weekend. They are an improved team, but they've admitted that they are not yet at their power level looking towards the later part of this phase. And so for this to work, it did work. They had the control. There was only a few minor hiccups, but minor hiccups against really strong teams can be huge deficits, and if the team punishes it. For Simplicity, obviously we heard from them that they might answer a little bit of cheese with their own. Nazeebo doesn't really count in that department, especially since we saw how that played out at Eastern Clash. It was more standard meta than anything. Getting to the late game, obviously difficult. But the credit is due. Drayden on Maiev. We saw the Diablo ban. I don't know if we're going to see Justine on Diablo anytime soon. It could always go back to that comfort hero. But we saw a ban on Diablo and the Medivh. It might be Maiev Medivh, might be the bans coming out here because Drated on those two heroes alone, Dreadnought, is terrifying.
Yeah, and it really does enable and kind of set up a lot of the rest of the roster for those kind of major plays. But it is interesting to me that this is now the third major deviation from the kind of meta compositions that we've gotten from Team Octalysis overall. But I just wonder, my immediate thoughts, I guess, go to a lot of it's been hinging around the Medivh not an option route. Now it went around to the D.Va, right? This is, again, they're talking about we're going back to when it worked for us, running our own meta, and that was very Roll20, which is D.Va and Medivh together on the composition. Diablo was the third tool within that kind of picture frame. So I guess, though there is deviation from them as a roster, I see this and I go, this is them just going to their older roots, and I wonder, what else do they have in store? Because the level of hype that they have been putting this, like, and how wild it's supposed to be, I go, this is you guys doing what you used to do, And so I'm just wondering, where's that new level, new flavor here that we've never seen before?